Hello, friends. Hello, Patriots. It's Josh Clark here. We have some big breaking news we're excited to share with you tonight, kind of share with you a little bit more of the story. But first of all, for those of you who are coming on board, my name is Josh Clark, running for the United States Senate. This is my better 7/8.
Hey, I'm Chelsey. Thanks for joining us, guys. Excited to share with you this story of ours.
So this has been a big day for us, you could say. And we are excited that you're willing to share a little of your day with us, learn a little bit of the story, why we're doing what we're doing. You might think you're absolutely crazy, but you know what? I've always believed that crazy people make an impact. We've got to be willing to step outside of our comfort zone, excuse me, to walk by faith and be willing to risk everything. And if we're not, then the question is, am I living by faith? If I'm not willing to do that, and am I really willing to abandon everything to follow? And for Chelsey and I, number one, we want to follow Christ. And in following Christ, I also want to heed my mother's advice as a young boy, where she'd always challenge us. You know, are you spending your money? Are you spending your time in a way that will leave a lasting impact? And that has really motivated me my whole life. Chelsey's known me since I was 5 years old. And we're going to share with you kind of the challenge that we laid out today, and then a little bit of what's behind that, why we're doing that. And then we'll kind of backtrack for those of you who haven't heard our story of like why we're in this race. What are some of the issues that we're really concerned about? How are we going to win this thing? But first of all, what's the challenge? So some of you are saying, what is this about? You ready to tell them?
Yeah.
So we issued a $1 million challenge to Herschel Walker earlier today, where we challenged him to show up for two debates, the two debates that he has missed here recently, and where he didn't show up. He didn't, exchange ideas, discuss and debate ideas to sharpen one another. He wasn't there. And I think that is so important, that we need to show up, that as stone or iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. That if you want to be prepared for the big battle that's coming in November against Raphael Warnock, then you've got to practice. You have to show up. You can't just say, hey, you know what? I've got millions of dollars in the bank, or I've got big endorsements, by McConnell, just because you've got the leader of the Senate endorsing you and tons of special interest money flowing in. That doesn't give you a pass to show up and be interviewed by the citizens and voters of Georgia. So that's my deep held belief. And so that's why we're telling Herschel, if you'll show up for two debates before May 24th, we'll give $1 million to conservative nonprofit charities that support issues that we all care about, like pro-life. That's a huge issue for me. Supporting clinics, pregnancy crisis clinics that are helping women in their time of need, in crises. We have a dear friend who I interviewed on Sunday, who we were able to refer to a pregnancy crisis center, who helped her. She went on to save that child and to give birth. That child's 7 years old today. It changed her life. So we're going to give to charities like that. So all he's going to do is show up for two and respond to us. We've sent him the terms. And if he'll agree to that, how are we gonna come up with $1 million? You want to tell him?
Well, so not backstory, but 24-hour backstory first of all, when we were challenged with this, it was just kind of like, yeah, no. But when we jumped in this campaign, we had other plans, of course. And I remember having a meeting with the kids, and it was all about, are we willing, if God calls us to something, what are we willing to give up? Because they were giving up a lot, and just like anybody in a campaign, it's a sacrifice. And so
you would tell them when I read to them.
Yes, well,
in that family meeting,
you read
the Declaration of Independence. Yeah, where our founding fathers, when they signed off on it, they pledged their life, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. They put it all on the line. And so I believe that no sacrifice is too great, when it comes to being willing to stand up and serve our country. And I believe that if we're not willing to, whatever we embark on, if we're running for public office, if we're running to serve the people, then we should go at it with the same attitude that my 4 brothers do. Your brother and my brothers have served in the front lines. We've got to be willing to abandon everything. And so that was the meeting. That was the discussion. I didn't sell them on the idea. I said, here's what America is facing. Here's what's at stake. And here's what it could cost us. So back to what you're sharing.
Yeah. So, talking about the cost. So how, we don't have $1 million lying around. No. But what God did bless us with is our dream, which was to have a small farm on the lake and our home here and use it for ministry and hospitality or whatever he wants. It's his. Ultimately,
sometimes we have 73 kids we coach. So we'll have 73 kids and their parents and their siblings and friends and people running all over the farm.
Yeah. So, but whatever God gives us, we want to use it to make the most impact. But back to the past 24 hours. So God put on my heart. The next morning I woke up after being like, what? That is just crazy. You guys are probably thinking the same thing. But I started thinking, wait, what if we are supposed to just lay it all on the line? The outcome of this is God's anyways. We don't have to be anxious about tomorrow. We are going to be faithful in the day to day. And today he called us to do something really big. And so we were like, you know what? We have this home he's blessed us with. And if he's calling us to surrender it all to him in this calling to run for the United States Senate and to defeat Raphael Warnock, the Goliath that is defiling a name, to see what he just passed today
defiling God's name.
Defiling, God's name is absolutely horrific, you guys. God cannot bless a nation that is okaying the death of children all the way up to beyond birth. And bills like that are even coming. And so we realize what we're up against. And as God in all of us, in our daily, like when we gave our life to Christ, it was about surrendering everything, and understand that everything is his. So, we sat down with the kids. There were tears because you don't know the unknown, right? But we don't know. We're not promised tomorrow, and everything ultimately is God's. And so we said, you know what? We could do this. If it meant that we have to sell our dream home, what is the dream home if we lose freedoms? If we are in a country to where we don't have a senator, and that's where we need that debate to happen so that we know, do you actually know the issues that you will be fighting in DC? Do you understand how to debate? And if you will not be right here with we the people, the Georgians, then how do we know that you will be for us, our voice? And I know because of Josh's record, all his campaign positions are backed up with a proven track record that he has a spine of steel. And so anyways, I just feel like that's kind of important to, call him out and say, look, this is how serious we are about you getting in front of the citizens of Georgia, we the people, so we can truly understand who you are.
People in this campaign have sacrificed so much and is so inspiring. In fact, when we get to DC, and we're hoping and believing for a miracle. And all we've got to do is be obedient, though. We've got to put everything on the line. We've got to be willing to surrender everything and trust God with the outcome. But when we got in this campaign, yes, we quit my executive role. We gave up 2 major sources of our income. And so we're just walking by faith. We are. And of course, we've been blessed to be able to do this for sure. But when we got in, it's not only us making big sacrifices and going up against somebody like, Herschel Walker, was my childhood, hero, you've heard me say, and, everybody just assumes he's going to win. But one of the things I was challenging the kids that I coach that, God chooses people that we often don't pick first. In fact, Corinthians says, for God has chosen the foolish things of this world, confound the wise and the base things and things which are not, to bring to nothing the very people who think they're all that no person would glory in his own accomplishments. And I can't tell you 100% what the outcome is going to be of this, but I do know that in the end, God's going to get the glory, whether we win or lose, and we're going to lay it all on the line. And it's not just us doing that. And that's the point that I wanted to make. Is our campaign manager, he and his wife, they walked away as the CFO of a over $400 million company. He was my age, 42 years old. We were both in our peak of our careers, the time when you're supposed to be making the money, right? And, not only did we walk away, but he walked away. And I said, I don't know about that. He said, you know what? It's not about you. He said, God's called me to do this. And if we lose this country, what's it worth anyway? And I could tell you story after story. My brothers who have joined the campaign, In fact, recently, and I mean, and Herschel wouldn't know, but recently Herschel said he was in our county campaigning. He said, let's talk about healthcare. He said, and there's nothing wrong with this, by the way, but he said, it's just totally different campaigns. He said, we're buying, I thought, wow, he's going to get into policy. No, he didn't. He said, we're buying healthcare for all of our campaign workers. We're the first to do that. I'm challenging everybody else to do it. Well, guess what? Our staff is all volunteering. I mean, they're not even getting salaries. And yet we have a huge campaign team, and we need more, by the way. We need more help this final 2 weeks, but we have so many people that are inspiring to us and will be for the rest of our life that are putting it all on the line as patriots, saying, we believe that you're called to do this, and we're going to get behind you. So, yes, people might look at us and say, how are you giving up your home, your dream? And yes, it's hard. Like you said, I mean, we're not going to sugarcoat it. The kids, we shed some tears as we talked about it. But in the end, everybody said, you know what? We don't know what's going to happen. It may look like the stupidest thing ever, but we're going to walk by faith and obedience, and we'll see what happens. And maybe we don't have to sell it, but maybe we do. And if we do, or if we don't, in all things, we want God to be glorified. And we do hope it'll be an example, because one of the burdens, I say an example, not that everybody should do that. Okay. Not at all. And I told our kids, I said, we got to make sure that just because God calls us to something, that we don't assume that everybody else is. Okay. Because not at all. God's got different paths. But what we do know is, I believe that as a country, whether you believe in God or not, and if you don't, I'd love to share with you my faith. But even if you're just a patriot, diehard American, you know that people have given their lives, given everything for this country. And how dare we get so caught up in the blessings and the prosperity? Just to be able to live the American dream, where I came from nothing as the oldest of 10 children, where we were living in other people's homes growing up. In fact, my entire childhood, in other people's homes, whether we were renting or living with other people. That was our story until I helped my parents buy their first house, but to be able to have what we've been blessed with, it's only because we live in America. So how dare me hold on to it all when I believe this country is falling apart? I really believe that the family is under attack. And one thing I know is I will fight for families. I said in the legislature all the time, and I don't believe God calls you to something he hasn't already been preparing you for, right? And I think my time in the legislature prepared me. Walking away unopposed is a track record where people can see my track record by God's grace of faithfulness, serving, earning the Defender of Liberty Award, standing up against leadership when they tried to twist my arm and tell me, you need me to get reelected. And I've seen so many people, like nice guys in our race, say all the right things. And it doesn't mean they're bad people, but we need people who are cut from a cloth. It doesn't make them better, but will stand on principle. And you don't know that until you're tested. And I've been there, and I know that's what we need in the U.S. Senate right now. And back to family values, we need somebody with stand, unashamed, bold, and say, I know what a man is, I know what a woman is, and I'm not ashamed of that, because they're indoctrinating our children as we speak. There is an all-out war for the next generation. And so do I think this is serious? Yes. And I don't think the old days of how people have run, and I know many still do. Oh, I have a dream of being a U.S. senator. That makes me nauseated when people talk about the Senate like as the exclusive, good old boys club, the most exclusive 100 club in the world. That is sick. I told my kids, we may have to give our life when I'm in the Senate. There is stuff going on right now that most of us don't know anything about. And when I get behind, I'm going to see the curtains of me lifted and see everything that's going on. There's a war from within. There's a war from without. There's a deep state. There's a global elitist who will sell our country out, and will do it for a buck, and will do it for the exclusive, the elite organizations. Like one of my opponents is in the Council of Foreign Relations. Very concerning. A lot of issues they've stood for. Candidates are known to be bought and paid for. And I'm not saying they're all bad people, but we don't need them in that club, under that allegiance, under that influence. We need people who have no influence, but to God and, number one, and the citizens they're serving, right? And that's what you're going to get. So anything you want to say on that, honey? I'm on a roll. I'm fired up.
No, and I mean that's really what it's about. I mean, being that this definitely was not our plan.
Yeah, tell them where we're supposed to be.
Well, it was funny. I was like wondering, should I bring down our dream board? But on our
U.S. Senate was not on the dream board.
Not one bit. We actually, we were planning on next month, and this was planned a year ago. We were lining everything up.
And we've been talking about it for years.
Forever. Ever since I've known, we've been married and we've had children. It's like, our children got to learn Spanish. So we were planning on going and learning Spanish and serving with our Serving as Living group and a mission organization that works in a very third world part of Costa Rica. So that was, something the kids felt like they gave up. They were very excited to do that. But saying that, it's realizing, okay, many are the plans of man, but the Lord directs the steps, and understanding that, being willing to live with your hands open. God, send me where we'll make the most impact as a couple, as a family. And anyway, so that was our plan. But you know what? Somebody challenged us recently. Not challenge us, but really, it was just kind of neat to hear. They said, you know what? They have plans like that too, but God kept them right here. And they said, if America falls from within and they cease to be the beacon of light for the world, then where does anybody turn for hope, for freedom of religion, freedom of persecution of who they are? I mean, that's how this country was founded. And so I realized this is our fight right now, to preserve the blessings of liberty, so that we are able to continue to be the beacon of light, and that we are that hope to the world. And I'm excited about that. That's, to me, is like the good fight. And that's what gets me fired up. We talk about protecting life, and we talk about from, conception to natural death, and what that means, and how life is such a God-given right. That fires me up. The political world does not fire either one of us up, but we understand, that those bills, everything that is brought to the U.S. Senate changes the outcome of who we are as a country. And we've got to get it back on track.
Well, I think this is our last stand. This is the last stand. And, when the Lord had called me a week before the general election, the week before the election in Georgia was stolen. Okay. And by the way, I'm the only one who acknowledged that among the Senate candidates that would just come out. Of all those that were in the debate, and who knows where Herschel's at on these things, but
we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. So, but everybody else just walked around it and said, I don't know, was it stolen? And I'm like, I'll answer. I warned it would happen. I knew there'd be massive ballot harvesting, what we see in 2,000 mules. But anyway, the point is that we have got to take a stand right now, and we need to know where we need to stand before the voters, be accountable to them. And so that's why we're challenging Herschel. And by the way, if you just came on, we've challenged a $1 million debate challenge. So we've challenged him to show up for 2 debates. And if he will do that, then we will give $1 million to nonprofit charities that are serving causes that we believe in, like Right to Life. A while back, Herschel, as we understand, charged $46,000 to speak to 2 pro-life groups. Okay. That was like, he's making money and speaking engagements.
That was during the campaign. Besides
what he's making, putting into the campaign coffers and all. And we said, you know what? That's something that we've always believed in supporting. And so that's one of the organizations that we'll give to, and many others. So if he'll show up for 2 debates, we'll give $1 million away. And in order to get that $1 million, we don't have just the cash sitting around. So we're willing to sell our home, our farm, and give that away. And that's what we've been explaining, that, it's all God's anyway. And if, our founding fathers are willing to risk everything, why shouldn't we? And so some of the big issues that we think are really important, if you're just coming on and haven't heard our other meet and greets, is, our debt is at 31 trillion and climbing. This is not sustainable. We're stealing from future generations. We need somebody who is a penny pincher, who's a fiscal conservative, who will stand strong. We need somebody to be a budget hawk. And I've been there. I've done that in the Georgia legislature. We need somebody who's going to stand firm on immigration. I have a compassionate heart, but compassion is not having unsecure borders. Compassion is securing our borders for the good and the safety of everyone. It's our national security that's at risk. Sex trafficking, drug trafficking, number one cause of death, 18 to 45 is drugs. It just riles me up, makes me so mad. We have to stand firm. We've got people coming in from 157 countries across the southern borders. It's a major national security risk. We've got foreign issues right now that stem out of a lack of good leadership. And so why would we roll the dice on just nice guys right now? We can't. And we can't send somebody just because they're a celebrity, just because, McConnell has endorsed them, just because the leader of the Senate, by the way. And so when he supports you, money starts flowing in, pouring in. Just because of that, and you won't stand up in a debate and face a job interview. That's concerning. That's why we're willing to put everything on the line. And we're asking you to join us. But I guess, earlier I was mentioning this all began a week before the general election, where God just spoke to me and said, you're not done. And I told Chelsey the next morning, I said, you're not going to believe this. I said, I believe God's preparing me for the U.S. Senate. That was before, again, the election was stolen. And then after all that happened, somebody asked me, are you going to run in 2 years? Are you going to run in 6 years? And I said, well, I'm not running now because, like Chelsey said, we had other plans. And I said, if God wants me to, if he tells me to run in 6 years, I'll run then. And what I ended up realizing is that God was calling us to run now. And there was a series of events. And you're talking about people challenging us. We had
it took a little while because we didn't jump in this race until pretty late.
It was a series of coaching the 73 kids and lessons I was challenging them. And I realized God was throwing back in my face. It was having a Romanian guy who watched their family lost everything. They watched their country fall. And he said, Josh, I'm watching the United States. And we're at that point as well. We're about to lose it all. And Americans are asleep, caught up in the prosperity and don't even recognize it. He said, you see it, you need to step up now. You need to quit your executive role. You can still feed your family and you go serve your country. And I ended up saying to him, well, why don't you run? And then, the next day I went to a Georgia game. There was Herschel. And I remember thinking, glad I'm not running this year. And then the next day I was at church and God just spoke to me. And I don't share this story all the time. I don't get to share it in all the meet and greets, but God just spoke to me and challenged me in the first service. And that Raphael Warnock, he is not a pastor. He is not a reverend. There are so many issues that I disagree with. He is not qualified to be a pastor, even by scriptural standards, let alone, to be a U.S. senator. And so, but I remember God just speaking to me that day and I thought, I don't have enough time. There's already big names in the race. And I put it out of my mind. Then I went down to the second service where my daughter was being baptized. And felt the Lord speaking to me again. And so much as I turned to Chelsey with tears in my eyes, I said, honey, I believe God's calling us now.
What is going on?
Yeah.
He's in the moment with it. But no, the burden on him was so heavy.
I knew what that meant. I knew who Herschel was. Since I was a little boy, I knew was at stake because I had helped and volunteered for U.S. Senate races in the past. And I ran my own state house race 12 years ago. People said we had no chance, by the way. We ended up winning in a landslide. But anyway, it was through that in that second service where I heard God speaking to me. And then I went and got in the baptismal pool with my daughter. And as I came down, a guy walked up to me out of the blue and just challenged me and said, Josh, when are you going to run for office? And I looked at him and said, why did you ask me that? I couldn't believe it. Was like he was reading my mind. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up, I walked away from him. I went back and I said, thank you so much for asking me that. And I said, you don't know this, but I've been praying about, should I do that or not? And he said, well, feel free to call me this afternoon. And I didn't. The next day I went to cross country. And that's when I was delivering a lesson to the kids. And God spoke to me again in that lesson. And I realized that I was using my own strategy, my own thinking. How can I obey God and put this off? And I realized that God was calling me then. And so I came home and I called that guy. He was an FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes guy. And I said, why did you ask me that yesterday? And, I was still struggling, to be honest with you. And anyway, so I called him and I'm getting distracted. I see messages coming in. Sorry. But anyway, when I called him, he said to me, he said, you know what? I feel like the Lord just spoke to me when you're in the baptismal pool with your daughter and said, I'll stand with him as he stands with his daughter and I won't leave him. And, that really touched me. And then he said to me, he said, Josh, there's a guy in the Bible and God called him to do something and he ran. And I'm not so sure that you're not running. And he didn't even know the whole story. It was crazy. And so anyway, he said, just get in the word and pray. I'm not telling you what to do at all. The next day, I felt convicted to pray and fast for 3 days. And I did. And at the end of that, you said to me that third day we talked.
Yeah. Oh, well, my turn. My part of the story. Well, back to kind of what we were saying earlier, I just, we see what's happening in our country. And, I still, it feels like years ago that we made this decision in a way, because so much has happened and we've seen who would have thought, right, that we would be seeing month after month, just so much happening in our country, of freedoms being stripped away, of this woke left. And so when Josh was talking, we were talking, and I said, well, I think God's calling us now too. At first, we're both kind of like, no, we'll put it out there, but no. And I realized, he wants to use family now more than ever, because that family structure is so under attack right now in our country. And with our oldest son, it's fun running a campaign with a senior because we keep taking a quick break to go on a college tour, or we have his graduation coming up. But even seeing, okay, we have our seniors still at home, our family, our 6 children, we're all still under the same roof. This is about family this year more than ever. And we both at that moment were like, yeah, we're supposed to be.
If we had to lose it all and our kids saw that, it'd be a great example to them.
I told him, and I was like, here we are doing the Zoom right now, talking about, we've kind of put our house up as a, if he'll debate, this is how we're going to get the $1 million to follow through with that challenge. And I told Josh, I said, what is all of this home, the boat, the lake, this life, if we lose the very, the America that we love, the freedoms and all. And I think we just kind of both understood, like, wow, it's now or never. Yeah. We won't if we do not stop this right now, we will not get another chance in 4 years, in 6 years. It has got to be right now. And that's how it looks by what we're seeing right now, right? Yeah.
I mean, who would think that they would be indoctrinating 1st to 3rd graders? I mean, I had an uncle who said, no, you don't think they're really doing that? That's concocted. I read the curriculum. I read the training materials. They're saying to those who are teaching the gender-bred man, gender, not ginger, gender, where they are trying to confuse children. And they said, if we don't introduce them to all these genders before the 4th grade, they'll be set. You see, they are dead set on ruining families, confusing children, and the devil is the author of confusion.
Well, and it goes along with the saying, your Ronald Reagan quote.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan, who we named our youngest daughter after.
And he always says, he just says one part, her name's Reagan, but he forgets her middle name. Her name is Reagan Hope.
Yes.
And the hope part is important. But what is the quote? Because if that's what we're saying right now, if we wait 4 years, 6 years, they're indoctrinating now. That's and all it takes is what?
The war is now.
The Reagan.
So Ronald Reagan said, freedom and liberty is never more than 1 generation from extinction. It's not passed in the bloodstream. It's got to be fought for and defended, or else we'll be explaining to our children what it was like when men were free. See, that was impressed upon me. I was blessed growing up. My mother homeschooled us. There's 10 of us. And I learned about our founding fathers, and I learned history, and I learned about the biblical principles that are woven in our country. And I know what makes this country great. And I know what we've got to do to return to that. And that's why it's so important, I believe. And that's one of my concerns is, again, Herschel, nice guy, to be around. But, there's a video of his that I have on my YouTube channel. He says the Constitution should be amended because of changing demographics. And he goes on and repeats himself several times and said, we need a progressive candidate who understands that. And that's the thing is, we need somebody, doesn't make you bad because you say that, but we need somebody who gets what this is all about and will fight and stand firm. And so that's why, and back to, as you were saying, back to our story of even when God called us to this, we counted the cost. We knew what was at stake, what it could cost. And we stepped in realizing whatever it costs, if God wants us to offer it up, we're willing to pay the price. And it's nothing new. Many generations before us have done that. The question is, will this generation do it? Will this generation rise up? And I think that's part of our calling, is to challenge people and not to judge people, but to challenge people to rise up. And what is it that God's calling you to do? Because together we can overcome. It may not be to sell your house or to be willing to offer up your house. I think we should all be willing, but I'm not saying you should issue a challenge and say, hey, if we need to, we'll sell our house. But you know what? What is it you're supposed to do? Maybe you're supposed to volunteer in your church. Maybe you're supposed to volunteer in the nursery. Maybe you're supposed to help out at the local school. Maybe you're supposed to help out at a local pregnancy crisis center. Maybe you're supposed to help out in our campaign the next 2 weeks. Maybe you're supposed to make a contribution. I don't know what it is, but we all need to do something. If we'll all do a little bit, we can overcome. And that's our slogan, together. We can overcome together. And the scripture says, we are more than overcomers through Christ, which loved us. And so I do, as you said, Reagan's middle name is Hope. I have hope. We have hope that even if we have to abandon everything, sell everything, and lose everything, and even if we were to lose the race, which I'm not counting on that, we're counting on winning. But even if we did, that's okay. God will use it together for good, and it'll be good for our family. And I hope it'll encourage others too. So you're not alone. If you're making sacrifices and you love this country and you're giving in the community, I want you to know we're beside you. We're locking arms with you, and we're going to do this together. So anything, Chelsey, you want to say as we wrap this up and close it out?
No, just a big thank you to all of those who, I know so many of us, our friends they are volunteering. They're making a difference in their community. And I've seen that even more so in the past year or two, like, wow, let's get involved. So thank you guys for those of you who are, and of course the challenge is let's continue to rise and live with our hands open. God, if you're faith-based, you understand what that means. Here, God, use me, use our family, and that we'll be the world changers, and that people will see the love of Jesus radiate through us in everything that we do, whether you're on the campaign trail, you're volunteering, or it's just in your community, making an impact, a lasting impact for not only for this generation, but the next generation to come. So
remember, our children, at the end of the day, they don't want more possessions. They don't want more stuff. That, the best gift we can give them, besides, I believe, to sharing with them Jesus, right, and raise them in a loving home and all, the next thing we can do is give them a free country where they can, if you have freedom, you can be and become whoever you want. But if we lose that, we turn into socialist, communist country, and we fall and we destroy family units and all, and this country falls. And it can happen. If you study history, this isn't guaranteed to continue, even to the next generation. But the best thing we can give them is freedom, is liberty. It's a country that's built on the foundation, in God we trust. And so thank you so much. And if you feel led to join us, please do. We've got a great event coming up this weekend. We got a sunset cruise, and we need help. We're so busy with this challenge and everything it took to put this together and traveling the state. We're heading back on the Liberty bus. And if you're able to join us, please go to votejosh.com/donate. You can also go to /cruise if you want to join the cruise. You can go to /debate if you want to learn more about this debate, the $1 million challenge. But thank you for being a part of the journey. Please join us on social media. Please share our post. Even that's huge. Liking it, sharing, inviting your friends to like our Facebook page. That's huge. All these things, together. And I'll leave you with this. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. That's Margaret Mead. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless your family, and God bless Georgia, and God bless America. We'll see you guys out there. Take care.